Chapter 10. Have to do the Department of Mysteries debacle at the end of this year. It was my handling of that which told Dumbledore I was ready to get involved, Harry sighed. But my godfather will not die this time, Harry said sternly. I won't take Bella along at all, and I'll only send those who will be able to control themselves not to kill and only disable when necessary. And I'll keep my group throwing nothing worse than stunners, just like last time. I can't promise anything with the order, though. Just don't get Lucius caught. Losing his influence in the ministry hurt last time. I will have to send him since he's the one who knows the way around. Everyone else I send will be expendable, and I can break them right back out of Azkaban, but don't catch Lucius. I'll do my best, but I can't promise. Just remember Fudge has to see you. Yes, I'm aware, Tom nodded, and I won't be able to possess you this time since you're not a Horcrux. Hopefully that won't throw any wrenches in the plan. Oh, another thing that might be important, but won't happen this time, unless you put the trace back on my wand, my trial for the Patronus. Do you remember the day that happened? August 2nd. It was 2 days after my birthday, Harry told him. I'll put the trace back on your wand by then, but I won't leave you defenseless before that, Tom told him. Thanks for that, Harry said, relieved. Now that I know I can use magic, maybe I can make my relatives a little more agreeable. I wouldn't do anything more than a compulsion charm if I were you. Dark magic might react badly with the wards if you can even pull off an Imperio. Yeah, wasn't thinking the Imperious anyway, Harry said distastefully, though he did appreciate the advice about the compulsion charm. He'd just been planning to scare them into submission, but that would work better. And for your information, I have used that one before. Successfully. Not that he was particularly proud of it, but he didn't want to be thought incompetent. He did want to change the subject, though. After that happens, I'll be taken somewhere else for the summer. Somewhere you definitely won't be able to get to. In that case, we can continue speaking by letter. If we need to, perhaps, you can pretend to have a secret girlfriend. I'll disguise the letters as something appropriately disgusting, and there will be a parcel-tongue password to access the real letter. Can do that, Harry agreed. And I will have to finish teaching you occlumency before then, otherwise you could get cornered by Dumbledore. Can we finish that fast? Snape was teaching me for months and we got nowhere. Severus is not much inclined for teaching. I like to think that I have more skill in that area than he. It should not take more than a few weeks if you are willing to put in the effort. Yeah, I'll definitely put in the effort. I'm not looking forward to the headaches, though, Harry muttered. Shouldn't have headaches when learning occlumency, Voldemort said confusedly. How do you not have headaches when a battering ram hits your mind repeatedly? Harry asked pointedly. Excuse me, Tom asked dangerously. What kind of occlumency lessons was that fool giving you? Harry was a little nervous at the temper he could see brewing in the Dark Lord's eyes, but he could not answer. I would walk in. He would tell me to clear my mind, and then cast legilimens at me over and over. And that was it. What about the theory, building traps, misdirections, meditation methods? Yeah, there was none of that. He wasn't really trying to teach me, was he? Harry realized with a sigh. Not by that method, no. That's how you break shields, not form them, Tom said, forcing his temper back. That wrinkly old bastard, he snarled. I'll bet he ordered Severus to do that to open your mind more towards our link, to get more information about me. Severus may not be a patient or easy man, but he would never torture a child unless he was forced to, not even a Potter. I don't know why anything about that man surprises me anymore, Harry sighed sadly. Not to worry, Potter. I'll teach you the right way, he promised. Thank you, Harry said, relieved. And I will also tell Severus that, should he be ordered to do as much again, he is to lie to the old meddler. Thanks for that, too, Harry gave him a shaky smile. We will meet 3 times a week here in your room, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Make sure when you compel your relatives that you compel them to ignore the snake. Okay, yeah, I'll do that, Harry agreed. It will take 2 weeks to brew the animagus potion. I will bring it when it's ready. I will also bring you books on the other subjects the next time I come. Okay, but before you go, can I ask, how do you know whose side Snape is really on? Harry was more than a little nervous about being around him, especially if the occlumency lessons came up again. I don't doubt that he did turn against me for Dumbledore when I lost my sanity and abandoned our mission, but I assure you that once he knows that I am back, he will be on my side once again. How can you be sure of that? I know Severus. He was desperate for our cause. My insanity caused me to break every promise I made him and drove him away, but he hates Dumbledore just as much. He won't hesitate to leave the old fool and come back to my side. I know he promised to spare my mother, but what other promises? Harry asked. Are you sure you wish to know? They will ruin your image of your parents were I to tell you. He wouldn't keep information from the boy that he had a right to know, but he would make sure that the consequences were known first. I'm sure. The truth is always better than lies. Harry nodded nervously. Your mother loved Severus as much as he loved her. Your father demanded her hand as the price for supporting Dumbledore rather than his own father who was neutral. No, Harry breathed out, guessing where this was going. In addition to sparing her, I was also to free her from the love potion that she was under to marry your father. Oh, God, Harry groaned, grabbing his wastebasket to throw up in it, and Tom immediately vanished it. No wonder he hates me so much. Then something else dawned on him. Does Sirius know? I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say no. From what I know of your father, he wouldn't want his friends to know that he couldn't get the girl on his own, Tom told him. But he'd never believe me if I told him either, Harry sighed. He's put James Potter, on such a pedestal. Some people do not want to hear the truth, and I'm afraid that after all this time, finding any proof would be all but impossible. Harry suddenly sucked in a sharp breath. I was potioned too, I think, to Ginny Weasley. It was the only way he could think of that he would end up falling for a fangirl. And the way he lost all feeling for her after Dumbledore died just to get it back later, probably had to find someone else to dose him. Ron, if he had to guess, given that his feelings had disappeared when Ron did on the Horcrux hunt too. That wouldn't surprise me. He would want to ensure that he never lost control of you, even in his death. The Weasleys are fanatic Dumbledore followers. They would have kept you on the path he ordained for you. That's sick, Harry said, feeling the bile rising in his throat again, but it stayed down this time. I agree, Tom said with his own look of distaste. He too was conceived via love potion, so he could understand how the boy felt. I swear, as soon as all this is over, I'm giving up on being a Potter. I'm gonna change my name to Evans. Don't be so hasty, Tom chided. Before your father, the Potters were a proud and noble family. You could bring them back to that, not to mention the power they hold in the Wisengamot. You don't want to give that up, do you? I'm not going to accept anything from a rapist, Harry snapped. He would even calculate everything he used from his trust vault and pay it back. Or you could consider it revenge, taking everything he gave you and using it for the benefit of his enemies, Voldemort pointed out. Harry paused a moment at that and tilted his head. I'll have to think about it. It still made him sick to think about it, but maybe it would be different once the shock wore off. That's all I ask. Don't make hasty decisions. Tom got up from his chair and said, I believe I've given you more than enough to think about today. I'll return Monday for our lesson. Make sure you finish your summer homework by then. You'll have more than enough to keep you busy after that. Harry just gave him a weak nod as Voldemort turned back into the Cobra again, and Darby popped in to take him back to the back door and let him out. Darby couldn't be seen outside, of course. Chapter 11. When Voldemort got back to his manor after visiting Harry, it was time to call his people for their reports. If things went like last time, Severus would likely come with the second calling. Whether he had a report or not would depend on if he had spoken to any of the others. He had the house elf collect Barty from the reaches of the house, and then change to his Voldemort form before putting his wand to his followers, armed to call them. He had done so from the bottom of the hill, knowing that he would have to give them the secret for them to be allowed entrance. That was why he'd made himself the secret keeper, so no one could grant entrance except for him. Once everyone was gathered before him, and he did notice Severus among them, he told them all, the Riddle House is on the hill. He had intentionally put the anti-spy wards out further than the Fidelis, so he could be sure that no one was hidden and listening for the secret with them. Once they had the secret, he apparated back to the house, leaving them to walk. By the time they arrived, he was seated on his new throne in the now glorious ballroom. As they entered, they all took a knee, as he had ordered last time. He was glad to see no groveling or sniveling this time. Once he ensured that, he told them, rise and form a line to give me your reports. Once he had them all, he took them and skimmed through them, looking for anything relevant to the things he intended to go over in this meeting. He would read them more in depth later, It was about 20 minutes of silence, and no one dared speak while he flipped through them before setting them aside. Selwyn, you are to find at least 2 healers sympathetic to our cause, one of them a mind healer. More is better, but at least 2. Once their loyalty is assured, you will owl me, and we will set up a meeting for me to evaluate them myself, he told the deputy head of spell damage at St. Mungo's. Understood, my lord. Do you have a time frame? Selwyn really hoped he wasn't going to end up cursed for the question. As soon as possible for the mind healer. Barty here has spent more than a decade controlled under the imperious curse, he said. No more than 2 weeks for another. He knew that Selwyn couldn't take the time off to be present as much as would be needed, and they needed his influence in St. Mungo's either way. He felt the need to point out that the mind healer was for Barty lest they believe that he needed such and become convinced of his weakness. Yes, my lord, Selwyn bowed before stepping back to his place in line. Rosier, you are to create a schedule and run dueling and combat training. It will not begin until we have an in-house healer and will be held at another location. I will get you the details on where within a week. This will be for not only my elite here, but also for any other unmarked supporters. Unless there is a good reason why you cannot attend, I expect everyone to take at least 10 hours a week in training, Voldemort told them, putting his combat specialist in charge. As a private dueling instructor, he was free to take on the position, even if it meant quitting the lessons with anyone he was currently teaching. That wasn't Voldemort's problem. The fact that Rosier also had a black belt in 6 different Muggle martial arts meant that he was most definitely in charge. Tom used to require such training from his people before his unfortunate bout with insanity when he threw away anything Muggle in origin, which had been ridiculous since wizards had been fighting like that just as long as Muggles had, until the more recent history when they began to get lazy. Yes, my lord, Rosier bowed respectfully. Lucius, Augustus, Walden. You 3 are to find out everything you can about Azkaban. The blueprints, layout, aura patrol schedules, preferably even what cells the prisoners are in. You will give a report on your progress once a week, he told them. Last time around he'd been reckless and foolish and just run in blasting everything in the way. Granted, they'd gained more people than they lost, but they would attempt to minimize the losses as much as possible. Even among the auras, he would spill no more magical blood than necessary. Their population was in dire straits as it was. Yes, my lord, the 3 chorused before Rookwood hesitantly asked, What about the Dementors, my lord? Get me any information you can find on them, including their history and origins. I know that the Department of Mysteries has studied them. I will handle them from there. He had allied with them near the end of the last war, but this time they wouldn't be set free on the Muggle world. He would have to think on what else he could give them in return for their cooperation, or perhaps it would be better to just find a way to destroy them. The only thing they wanted was souls. Muggle souls were too dangerous for them to get involved with, and they would decimate the wizarding population if given any freedoms whatsoever. He would lose the intimidation factor they held, though. He would have to consider that in more detail later. Yes, my lord, the Department of Mysteries spy said with a bow. Travers. You find Karakov and bring him to me, alive and reasonably unharmed. I will not give you a time frame, but I want him as soon as possible. Yes, my lord. The rest of you, for the moment, work on recruiting. Save for special cases, the elite will not be expanded, but the more people we can win to our side, the better. Even if it is only convincing them of our ideas, Voldemort told them. Severus, stay back. The rest of you are dismissed. Voldemort had spent a lot of time considering the matter regarding Severus. While he was certain that he would have the man on his side, should he learn that Harry Potter was no longer in any danger from him, he didn't want to give up that secret. Not until the old man was dead. Until then, it would be between the 2 of them. And the little bit that Barty knew, but Barty never left his side, and wouldn't until they had won. Once everyone else was gone, he took a contemplative posture. Severus, 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 I must admit that I am at something of a loss as to what to do with you. My lord, Snape said, more than a little nervous and trying not to show it. I wonder how deep the old man's claws are in you, he said thoughtfully. Not at all, my lord. I am always loyal. Voldemort cut him off with a crucio, holding it for 10 seconds before letting up. Do not lie to me, Severus. He waited until the man pulled himself back to his feet. I may have regained my sanity, But I am still not to be trifled with. The potion master's eyes widened at that statement. He had heard from the others about the Dark Lord being sane again, but hadn't put much stock in it. The fact that the man himself had said so, meaning that he admitted that he hadn't been before, was different. That, and the fact that the Crucio had only been for a short time. Before, if he had suspected a lie, he wouldn't have let up and probably would have ended the long torture session with a killing curse. Voldemort considered the best way to handle the proud man before he settled on a course of action, one that he would never have done for anyone else. But the fact was that the man had more reason than most to deny him. Yes, Severus. The unfortunate malady that affected me the last few years prior to my temporary defeat has been resolved. My mind has been repaired. That is the reason that no one was punished for not searching for me or restoring me sooner, because I do understand why they would not have wished to. Things are different now, Severus. I understand, my lord, he said hesitantly. You will have to earn your trust back, Voldemort told him. Nothing that was said here so far he minded much getting back to the old man. He would prefer it didn't, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if it did. The only reason he had allowed Severus to hear it all. You will not tell Dumbledore of my returned sanity. You will have to give him some information, of course, so you may tell him that my base is under Fidelis, and that I am the secret keeper, that I trust no one. I will leave the details for you to imagine. I expect you to report anything you can on him and what the Order is up to. I will only act where necessary, and will obviously take steps to prevent suspicion falling on you. You are no use to me if they turn on you. Yes, my lord, Snape bowed. Consider this a test, Severus. Should the Order learn what I spoke of here today, you will not see the sun set again. I will not fail you, my lord, he promised. Good, Voldemort nodded. Now, is there anything you wish to tell me that is not in your report? He noticed that there was information on the loyalties of the Slytherin students and some on the other houses, but there was a lack of information on the Order. Dumbledore has reformed the Order, my lord, as I suppose you are aware. I am unable to give you the location of headquarters. It too is under Fidelis, and Dumbledore himself is the secret keeper. Should I get the opportunity, I can attempt to secrete away a slip with the secret as he writes it down for others. Not at this time. The risk of being caught is too great, and the location of their headquarters isn't that important right now. As you wish, my lord, Snape nodded, glad to hear that. It was more proof that he had his sanity back and kept Snape's head off the chopping block. There has been a great deal of discussion since the trial yesterday on whether Black should report to St. Mungo's. Many think it is a trap, given the rapid turnaround of the ministry on the subject. He was more than a little curious about that too. Perhaps suggest that they hire a mind healer in secret then, Voldemort said dismissively. It's not an attempt to kill him so that Draco Malfoy gets the Black Lordship, Snape said, somewhat confused. Perhaps if young Malfoy was next in line, that could be an option. Except not since he'd made the deal with Potter. I have it on good authority, though, that Black has made the Potter boy his heir, and we all know that he's far more difficult to kill. So we are helping him, Snape asked, still just as confused. His being free and well is unlikely to cause us any more problems than the alternative, and this way he does owe us a favor. Whether that favor ever comes in handy, or if he even agrees to pay it, it doesn't hurt anything to have. He is the lord of an ancient and noble family. Right now, he is in Dumbledore's pocket. Even if he doesn't come to our side, that's still more power that we take from the old man. I understand, my lord, Snape said, finally believing once and for all that the man was back to his old self. Cunning and ruthless and smart enough to think 5 steps ahead. If not for the vow he'd taken to protect Potter, he would be fully loyal once again. That vow, unfortunately, complicated things. He would still do what he could to support the Dark, while keeping Potter out of danger, and would just have to hope that it didn't come down to a choice. Do you have anything else to report? Not at this time, my lord. Very well. Should you learn anything urgent, you will come to me immediately. Otherwise, you can report every 2 weeks. Dismissed. Chapter 12. Once Tom had left, Harry sat in his room just turning everything over in his head. The most prominent thing on his mind was that he was a product of a love potion. That was just disgusting. He'd felt bad for Voldemort when he found out about him back in his first 6th year, and now he was in the same boat. He knew that he had more important things to think about, but couldn't get that out of his head. He was startled out of his thoughts almost 2 hours later by his aunt screeching for him to make dinner. Harry took a few deep breaths and decided that enough was enough. He went down the stairs and cast a quick Petrificus Totalis on all three of his relatives so the whale and the walrus wouldn't interfere, and then cast compulsion charms on all three of them. After a moment's thought, he decided that he didn't want to deal with them at all, and that they didn't deserve Darby's help either. He compelled them to clean up after themselves and cook for themselves like he wasn't there. They would leave him alone, and he would do the weeding and cutting the grass on his own schedule, and that was all he would do. He also included that they should ignore any snakes in the house like they weren't there. That done, he went back upstairs and called Darby to bring him some dinner and turned his attention to his summer homework. He had 2 days to finish it up before his tutoring started. No matter how hard it was to focus at the moment, he just had his potions and history work left. History wasn't difficult, really, just mind-numbing. He knocked that out first. Potions would be a nightmare and did end up taking him the rest of the 2 days, and he just finished it after lunch on Monday. Harry remembered to leave his bedroom door open a crack after dinner Monday night, and right at 8, a familiar cobra slithered in before turning into a man. "I do hope you managed to finish your summer homework by now," Tom asked with a raised eyebrow. "Yeah, it's done. I'm ready for whatever else you have for me," Harry told him as Tom took a seat in a conjured armchair facing him. "First, here are the books I promised. This one in particular you will have to keep hidden. I made a copy of it from my library, and mine is a copy of the one found in the library of the Chamber of Secrets. As far as I'm aware, there are no other copies in the world, and given the authors, it would raise far too many eyebrows were you found reading this one. Nature of Magic by Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, Godric Gryffindor, and Salazar Slytherin," Harry read out in awe. "This one should also remain hidden for the same reason." He handed over a second one. "Secrets of the Dark and the Light by Mirrodin Imrise. Is that who I think it is?" Harry almost had trouble breathing. "That was the true name of the one known today as Merlin Ambrosius," Tom told him. "That one is also a copy. There was no way he was letting anything happen to the originals. They were still in the chamber where they would remain permanently. The protection charms there had kept them safe thus far and would continue to do so, especially since he'd pumped enough magic into them during his school days to last them another 1,000 years. He wouldn't even put them in his personal library, hence the copies." "Wow," Harry said in awe. "These three are relatively rare, but not to the same degree. Of course, they would be considered dark and dangerous by Dumbledore, so I would still keep them hidden, along with the last four, which are relatively common, but banned from polite society thanks to the old bastard. I'll be careful with them," Harry promised. "Would it hurt the copies at all if I charmed the cover into something else?" "It would not, so I suggest doing so before you are rescued from this place," Tom told him. The boy would know better than he what subjects would draw the least attention, so it would be on him to do so. If it were up to Tom, he would make them advanced arithmancy and runes book, but he knew that Potter wasn't taking either of those. "Now, to occlumency. This book will help with both that and the animagus transformation." He handed over one last book. "For tonight, I will go over the basics, and next time we will begin practice." "Okay," Harry said, settling in to listen as he pulled his parchment and quill over to take notes. The next hour was spent talking about the different types of meditation and what sort of barriers were best for the different types of minds. More important than the barriers is the ordering of your memories. In our unique situation, I would suggest placing your memories of the future under the most scrutiny. You can move those memories forward as time goes on and bury your current memories. That way, should the headmaster read your mind, he will see the obedient little follower that you were last time rather than any signs of rebellion. Naturally, that won't work for all memories since things will be different in some ways, so use your good judgment, assuming you have that ability." "Okay, that makes sense." Harry didn't respond to the insult. He was more than used to such things from Snape and could easily ignore it and take the pertinent information from it. "So essentially, what I need to do is get my memories in order and then protect them from other people." "Essentially, yes, but don't expect it to be easy. You will be spending at least 4 hours per day for weeks before you will have adequate protection, and then you will need to spend at least 30 minutes per day with maintenance of that protection. Be thankful you're so young. You don't have nearly so many memories as some. Yeah, I can imagine, Harry chuckled. Now I expect you to put the effort into this, Potter, or I'll stop teaching you and let Dumbledore rip you apart when he figures you out, he said warningly. I don't appreciate wasting my time. I'll work at it. I promise, Harry assured him. Good. For future lessons, we will spend 30 minutes discussing what you've read and learned, and then the next hour working on building your shields and traps and testing your mind. Okay, Harry nodded. Now, regarding those other books, they will include instructions for ceremonies, including full and new moons. No matter how simple they may seem, do not do them. The burst of magic will be detected. Once we get rid of the old man and secure the ministry, they will be done by everyone. But until then, we can't risk doing such things in the open. I understand, Harry agreed. Then I will see you Wednesday, Tom said with a curt nod as he got up, turned back into a snake, and slithered out the door. Harry looked down at his 3 feet of notes and found himself surprised. The Dark Lord was actually a pretty good teacher. Granted, his attitude left a lot to be desired, but teaching someone you don't like is probably not easy. Just because they were allies of a sort didn't mean they liked each other. He still managed to get the information across in an easy-to-understand way and actually answered questions when Harry had them. Aside from the few sideways insults that seemed almost habit rather than meant, it wasn't much different than class with McGonagall. Better in some ways, even. Dumbledore really should have given him the defense job. Harry shook that thought off and read back through his notes and then the first chapter of the Mind Magic book. He then spent the half hour doing the nightly exercises, despite the fact that they wouldn't do a lot of good just yet until he had something there to manage. It would at least start a good habit, and it helped him get to sleep afterwards. The next morning, Harry spent the time between breakfast and lunch organizing his memories and building a basic shield. The book suggested not putting up any traps until the memories were all in place, and not strengthening the shields until everything else was done. Until then, a temporary shield was recommended, and the practice in keeping that up would stand in good stead when it came to digging deeper. The first hour was spent just trying to slip into a meditation. He had to try 3 different ways before he found one that would work for him. Then 4 hours of getting memories sorted, which was a lot harder than it looked. Thankfully, the book said that it would get easier with time. Right now, he was just separating them into areas. He would have to decide, preferably by tomorrow, what form and organization system he wanted to use in his mind.